evening is Brother C.W. Blaylock, circuit servant from New Jersey Circuit number 5. During the drama, no cameras will be allowed on the field during this portion of the programs. And so that all can see, we would like to have the attendants be alert to those that might be standing up in the stands or standing in front of others to take pictures. Try not to block the view of your brothers who've come to see the program, the drama this evening. So attendants will ask you to adjust if you are blocking a view. Perhaps after the drama is over and you'd like to take some pictures, we could invite the actors to step out onto the racetrack around the stadium there. And now our drama. Make Jehovah's purpose your way of life.
Are you ready for the watchtower study, David? Where's your watchtower? What about your songbook? Do you have your Bible?
Come on now, sis. What's the idea of the third degree?
So you don't have your Bible? Oh, David, you know Daddy said you should take it with you every week so you can use it during the public meeting. And now, just because he's away at the Kingdom Ministry School, you shouldn't try to get away with something.
I was going to get it. I'm not trying to get away with anything.
I know you're not, Davy. Not really. It's just that there are so many exciting things going on these days. David, don't you realize that we're living in the time of the end of this system of things?
Sure.
There's never going to be another time like this in all history. But it worries me because you don't seem to take more of an interest in things.
What do you mean I don't take an interest in things? I go to all the meetings. I go out in service every week. I don't know what you're talking about.
I know you do all those things, David, and you never complain about it like some of the kids down at the Kingdom Hall do. It's just that you're my brother, and, well, what are you going to do when you get out of school? Are you getting ready for it?
I don't think about it much. That's a way off yet. I don't know what I'll do. Get a job, maybe. Or maybe even pioneer.
Pioneer? How can you pioneer? You're not even dedicated yet.
Well, I will be someday, probably.
Oh, David, I just can't understand how you can feel that way.
What do you mean, that way?
So indefinite and indifferent about everything. Mom and Dad are so wrapped up in the work, and you, well, you just never seem to, I don't know.
Well, everybody else doesn't get as excited about everything as you do, that's all.
But David, what about that demonstration we had at the service meeting? Didn't that get you excited? Didn't that make you feel how important it is for us now to take advantage of every minute we have and to prepare ourselves so that we can help the interested persons get out of Babylon the Great? And you know, there isn't much time left. You know, if we don't... David, don't tell me you didn't see the demonstration.
Well,
David, what happened? You were there with us. You went into the meeting when we did.
Well, I had to go out for a minute, that's all. And then
A minute? Why, that was more than a 20-minute part on the program.
Well, there were a couple of fellas out in the corridor, and we stopped to talk for just a minute. And, well, maybe it was a little longer than I thought it was.
David, not while the service meeting was in progress. Oh, no. What's Daddy going to say? You know how concerned he is about us, and you know how hard he's tried to help us see the importance of the work. Oh, I think he's going to be awfully disappointed.
Come on, Kitty. What are you making such a big thing of it?
Well, let me ask you, David. Why is it that you boys are always talking about cars and motorbikes and baseball and things like that?
You're just a girl. What's wrong with those things?
Well, there's nothing wrong with them in their place. It's just that that's all you talk about. Don't you ever talk about the meetings and, all your experiences in the field service? Don't you enjoy these things? And don't you like to talk to the others about something like that?
I don't know, Kitty. Sometimes I think you get too extreme about things.
Honest, David, I'm not trying to make you the way I am. It's just that you're my brother. And you know as well as I do that Daddy has talked to you about it many times. I don't want to see you get into trouble with him again, that's all. And Dave, I know that it hurts Daddy to see that you're not more spiritually minded than you are.
What do you mean, spiritually minded? What is being spiritually minded anyhow? I enjoy the meetings.
Well, I'm not saying that you don't, David. It's just that, well, you know, you weren't really a part of the service meeting. How could you have been when you weren't even listening? Just being there doesn't mean anything. You know, before Daddy went away, he had a long talk with you about these things, and he said he was concerned about your spirituality. And, well, I had just hoped that while he was away...
This sounds like a serious conversation. Mind if I join?
Hi, Mom.
Sure.
Come on in.
Well, it's certainly going to be good to have your father home again. 2 weeks seems like such a long time.
I know.
And I'm going to be glad that I can give him a good report about the two of you. Me too. The way Kitty was talking, I was beginning to think that maybe I hadn't... Oh, please don't misunderstand me, David. I'm just as concerned about you and your relation to Jehovah as your father is. But you've been a big help to me in the 2 weeks that your father's been away, and I'm glad that I can give him a good report about your conduct. You did your chores without any complaining. You even fixed the garage door without being asked to, and I appreciate that. But I am sorry that I'm going to have to tell him that you missed part of the service meeting. Oh, how did you know? You were sitting up front because you had a talk in the theocratic ministry. I know that, David, but that doesn't mean I can't know what's going on with my children. I know where you are, and I know that you were outside for a good share of the service meeting. But you didn't say... I know I didn't say anything to you about it that night, but I did want to mention it to you before your father came home. He's the one who's going to have to do something about it, and I'm afraid he's going to be very unhappy. Honest, Mother, I don't understand what this is all about. I know you and Dad both keep talking to me about spirituality and things like that, but honest, I can't see what's so bad in what I've done. I always go to the Kingdom Hall with you. Sure, I talk to the boys there about things that we're interested in, but we never get into any trouble, and we don't talk about things that I wouldn't say in front of you. I know that, David, and you don't know how thankful we are that you've never given us any trouble at school or with the police like some of the boys in your school. But let me ask you, David, do you think that's all that's necessary to give you a good standing with Jehovah? Well, no, we have to go out in the service, but I do that. And we have to... But is that enough, David? Is just going from house to house or even conducting home Bible studies, is that all that Jehovah expects of us? Well, what do you mean? What else is there? It's your heart attitude, David. It's the way you feel toward him. It's the way you respond on your own to the work he's given us to do. The reasons why you're doing it. Do you honestly believe that if you hadn't been our son, your father's and mine, that you'd be one of Jehovah's Witnesses today? Well, I never thought about it. No, I guess I wouldn't.
But why not, David? If it's in your heart to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, it doesn't make any difference who you are or who your parents are. You're just that way because you love Jehovah.
That's right, David. You have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And it has to be because you have a sincere and honest love for Jehovah and an appreciation for your assignment in his organization. Remember, we're not going to be going from house to house forever, but we are going to be serving Jehovah forever. So we should be doing the work we're doing now because we want to serve him forever. And we should understand why he's given us this particular work to do today, and do it for that reason, because it's in line with his purpose for us now.
I think this is the most wonderful time to live in that has ever been. And the work that God has given us to do as Christians living in the last days, well, it's the greatest privilege that anybody could have. Why, David, suppose you lived back in the days of ancient Israel.
Well, that wouldn't have been so bad.
Oh, no, of course not. They were God's people, too.
And it's true, God's people in all ages have had a wonderful privilege, and many of those in ancient Israel had a very insight into God's purpose and a consuming desire to have a part in that purpose.
You mean the prophets, and of course men like Abraham and David.
Well, I was thinking more of some of the people who might, well, in their own time have been considered just ordinary people.
Well, what do you mean?
What did most of them have to do except, well, just live and keep the law, of course? Well, take Naomi, for example. Oh, you mean Naomi, who lived in the days of the judges in Israel? Yes.
Naomi certainly had a deep love for Jehovah, didn't she?
Yes, and a keen understanding of Jehovah's purpose for his people. She wasn't a prophetess or anything like that, David, but she did more than just live or keep the law, as you put it. She seemed to have an all-consuming longing to share personally in God's promise through Jacob.
What was that promise, Mother? Didn't she hope to be repurchased or something like that?
That's partly it, but I was thinking more of her strong, impelling reason for desiring a repurchaser. I'm not sure I know exactly what you mean by a repurchaser.
And what was her real reason? Could you tell us the story, Mom?
Well, I guess I can. It's time to go to the Watchtower study, but I think we'll have time on the way to the meeting. And then, when we get home, David, I want you to tell me what you think about the attitude toward Jehovah that Naomi and Ruth had, and the others too, and their attitude toward God's purpose, and their own place in that purpose of God. Now come, let's go out to the car, and I'll begin my story just at the point where Naomi is leaving Moab on her way back to her home in Bethlehem.
Let me pause here for a moment and sit on this rock. Yes, Mother. Here, sit down. Let me spread my cloak for you.
We have come a long way and are near to crossing over the border of the land of Moab into Israel. I'm weary.
The road has been very difficult.
My bones are old and tired, and I have little heart for the journey. I leave nothing behind in Moab, but I return to nothing in Bethlehem. Jehovah has truly dealt bitterly with me.
Oh, don't be discouraged, Mother. Why, you have Orpah and me. We'll care for you and look after you as your days increase.
No, Ruth, my daughter. The time has come for us to part.
Oh, no!
Have I not taken you from your own mother's homes for nothing? Go, each one of you. Return to the house of your mother and to your God.
We'll never leave Nanny.
May Jehovah exercise loving kindness toward you, just as you've exercised it toward my sons who've left you widows, and toward me. May Jehovah make a gift to you, and do you find a resting place, each one in the house of her husband.
No, but with you, we shall return to your people. Please don't turn us aside. We'll go on with you to Bethlehem. Perhaps we'll find someone among your relatives who will provide rest for you.
Children, listen to me. As you know, it's been some 10 years now since a famine arose in the land of Israel. And Bethlehem in Judah, the place of my home and the home of my husband, came to be without bread.
It must have been a very severe time for you.
For both Elimelech, my husband, and me. But especially did it touch our hearts when we saw the lives of our two sons, Mahlon and Kilian, threatened for lack of food. So Elimelech proceeded to take our sons and me and to leave the place of his inheritance in Bethlehem and go from there to reside as an alien in the fields of Moab. For he said, in order that we might not perish, and the lamp of Elimelech be extinguished forever in Israel. Where then would our hope be? For are we not of the tribe of Judah? And has not the true God said, the scepter will not turn aside from Judah, neither the commander's staff from between his feet until Shiloh comes, and to him the obedience of the people will belong. But now, surely the true God will look with favor upon us in the fields of Moab and preserve us alive in the midst of a people whom we've not known formerly. And who knows but that the Savior of the world will come forth from the house of Elimelech.
But now Elimelech and both your sons are dead. How then shall your husband's name be preserved alive in Israel?
You have touched my sorest grief. There is no way, Mother. The law of Israel's God commands that where a man of Israel has died without his having a son, his brother should go to the dead man's wife, and he must take her as his own wife, and their firstborn son must succeed to the name of his dead brother, that his name may not be wiped out from Israel. But I am too old to be redeemed.
Oh, Naomi, no wonder that your soul is in such anguish.
Why should you go with me? Do I still have sons in my inward parts, and will they have to become your husbands? Return, my daughter. Go, for I have grown too old to get to belong to a husband. If I had said I had hope also that I should certainly become a husband tonight, and also should certainly bear sons, would you keep waiting for them until they could grow up? Would you keep yourself secluded for them so as not to become a husband? No, my daughter. For it is very bitter to me because of you that the hand of Jehovah has gone out against me.
Oh, Naomi, my heart forbids me to leave you. But I'm fearful of what the future holds for me in Israel, an alien in a strange land. Even my love for you might not uphold me. You will be cared for. You will be among your own people. But I know how your people feel about those of us of Moab. Perhaps it is best that we return to our own people.
Farewell, Orpah. May peace attend your journey. Farewell. And now, Ruth, look. Your widowed sister-in-law has returned to her people and her gods. Return with your widowed sister-in-law.
Please, Naomi, do not plead with me to abandon you, to turn back from accompanying you. For where you go, I shall go, and where you spend the night, I shall spend the night. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I shall die, and there is where I shall be buried. May Jehovah do so to me and add to it, if anything but death should make a separation between me and you.
You are indeed a true daughter of Israel. Come, we'll continue on our way together until we come to Bethlehem, and may Jehovah, the God of Israel, look with favor upon us. You, Naomi? Who calls? Enter, and may you bring peace. Is it indeed you, Naomi? Oh, Naomi, have you indeed returned? You're welcome indeed. Have you just arrived? We heard that you'd returned. And is this Ruth the Moabitess, your daughter-in-law? Yes, this is she. She's returned with me from Moab. Then the report is true. But is it really you, Naomi? Where's Elimelech? And your sons? It's been reported to us. Are they? Do not call me Naomi, the pleasant one, my sister. Why, Naomi, what happened? You're alone, Naomi? Call me Mera. Mera? The bitter one? But why? Because the Almighty has indeed dealt very bitterly with me. Oh, Naomi, how grieved we are.
Why did you leave your own people in the city of your birth? Would you not expect Jehovah's displeasure?
Can you not see? But tell us, Naomi, what's happened? You're distressed. I went out full, and Jehovah has brought me home again, empty. Are you then a widow? Elimelech sleeps with his poor father. Oh, it's just as we heard. May Jehovah have mercy on you. But Marlon and Gillian... brother. So it is. Oh, my husband and my son. Oh, God. Why then call me Naomi? Seeing that Jehovah has testified against me, and the Almighty has
Indeed, a judgment from Jehovah. When Elimelech spoke of leaving Israel during the famine, I told him...
dead, Kenaz. Elimelech was a man blameless and upright, a man who feared God and turned aside from evil.
Why then did he flee from Bethlehem? Were not all of us, his brothers, also sorely afflicted by famine? Why did he seek refuge among the Moabites? No, Bargal, it's a judgment from God against the house of Elimelech.
Judge between the dead man and you, Kenaz. Why must you thus add to Naomi's grief now that she's returned to be with
Kenaz speaks truly, Jericho. Better you had died too in the fields of Moab, Naomi, rather than to return here to starve in the city of the house of bread.
But there is again bread in abundance in Judah. The fields are full, and already the barley harvest has begun. Soon the wheat
The
will
land of your inheritance lies idle, Naomi. The drought has laid your fields barren. They are dry and parched even as you've become.
Yes.
Your house here in the city has been empty these many years. It must indeed be in need of repairs.
But who is the young woman with you, Naomi?
This is Ruth, my daughter-in-law. Look, she's even returned with me from Moab.
Moab. I thought she didn't look like an Israelite girl. A Moabitess, indeed.
Welcome to Bethlehem, Ruth, and please forgive Kenaz.
May you have peace.
Enmity has long existed between Israel and Moab, Ruth. But not all in Israel are as quick to judge as Kenaz and Zerah. That's very true, Ruth. May you too have peace. If you've returned with Naomi, then you're welcome indeed.
Oh, Naomi is truly my dearest relative. I no longer feel at home in Moab. From henceforth, Bethlehem will be my home because Naomi is here.
My faithful friend has left all in the country of Moab. She believes that Jehovah, the God of Israel, is the one true and living God, beside whom there is no other. She has faith in his promises to Israel and desires to serve him, even as we do. Therefore she clings to me and will not leave me.
You will not find it easy in Israel, Ruth. Your people, the Moabites, have always opposed Israel.
Forgive me, please, but
they are no longer my people. You are my people, and your God is my God. I will indeed reside with Naomi and care for her as her days increase.
Your field is neglected, Naomi. Can you plow and sow and harvest? Will you find for yourself a husband? Or do you think the Moabitess will find for herself a husband among the young men?
Kenaz, don't you know it's written in the law that the alien resident in Israel must be shown love? You think of yourself as an older man in Israel, yet you forget that
Mind your tongue back, Al. Are you too ignorant of the law that says you must not call down evil on an elder in Israel?
Elder? You're not one of the elders, Kenaz. You're just an old man. A vindictive old man. Let Kenaz speak, Barakel. What he says is true. Do I have hope that I should certainly become a husband tonight? It's indeed very bitter to me, because the hand of Jehovah has gone out against...
Oh, no, Naomi. Please don't despair, for doesn't the law in Israel also provide for the widow and the orphan? So let me go, please, to the field tomorrow and glean among the ears of grain, following after whoever it is in whose eyes I may find favor. In this way, we shall have food.
Oh, you're more than I deserve, my daughter. You may go.
Gleaning, Naomi? In the fields? And on the day after you've arrived home to be once again with your relatives? No, Naomi. See, here is a gift blessing from the house of Peloni Harmony.
Most generous, Pelony. Most generous indeed.
That's why it's hardly one measure.
Then
It is good to see that you have returned, Naomi, though my heart grieves for my dear brother, Elimelech.
May Jehovah bless you, Pelony, for your loving kindness expressed toward the widow of your dead brother.
Please, excuse me, Naomi, but Maranatha and I must return to our own houses. May Jehovah be with you until we meet,
my sisters. May Jehovah see to it.
The report is true then, Naomi? And your two sons? Have they too joined their father in Sheol?
Call me Mera, my brother, for the bitter one is what I've become.
And is this Ruth, the Moabitess whom I've heard has returned with you?
It is Ruth, who's forsaken the house of her mother to be with me.
May Jehovah show you favor, my daughter.
And may he bless you and prosper you, my lord, for the loving kindness you've shown to my mother-in-law.
Jehovah has prospered me. Should I not then share my blessings with those less fortunate? And now, Naomi, I would speak to you of your future. The piece of the field that belonged to Elimelech, that is your inheritance, is a large tract of land. It's of little value after all these years of idleness, but it could be made to produce something, of course, with great effort and at much cost in time and labor. With the fields now full and the harvest underway, men servants are scarce, and few are eager to work for a full day's wage. But it might be, since you are a widow with no means yourself, that I might be able to, that we might do some agreement.
Arrived home, Pelony. I've not yet even seen the piece of field that belonged to Elimelech. Perhaps another time.
To be sure, Naomi, to be sure. And perhaps I can stop by again with another little gift blessing for you. It isn't much, and not of the new grain. We haven't yet beat out what we've harvested, but it will make fine flour and provide you with bread.
Your gift is accepted with thanksgiving to Jehovah, Pelony. May the true God prosper you.
And may you have peace, Naomi, now that you have returned to Bethlehem.
You would do well to listen to Pelony, Naomi. He's a wealthy man, a man of influence.
You aren't in a position to do much bargaining, Naomi. Do you have sons who can plow and sow and harvest for you? Or will the Moabitess provide you with sons? Israelite sons? No, Naomi. Jehovah has forgotten you, just as surely as he's taken away the fruit of your womb.
Speak truth, Naomi. And one thing is certain. Shiloh will not come from the house of Elimelech. I knew the day that Elimelech packed up and fled from Bethlehem.
Oh, don't let your heart be troubled because of your mother, dear. I'm sure our God Jehovah hasn't forsaken you. Has he not performed wonderful things for your people in times past? And mother, dear, did he not open the womb of Sarah, who was as good as dead? Perhaps the Almighty will look upon you too with favor. Perhaps his spirit might even overshadow you, and your hope of sharing in the coming of Shiloh might yet be realized.
You're a blessing to me from Jehovah, my child. Your faith in the true God is certain to be rewarded.
you and Ethan had those words.
Ethan may be set over the harvesters, but he's still not the master of the field. Ha! Why, Boaz said it was because of my dear widowed mother that he hired me again.
Boaz is an old man, Hummel, but he's kind and very generous. And he's also a man of great authority, one who respects Jehovah and his laws. Haven't you noticed how he always greets us when he comes into the field? Jehovah be with you, he says. It would be good not to try his patience too far. And as for Ethan...
I'm aware of how Boaz feels and how he considers Ethan. I know. Boaz is unmarried and childless, and
Ethan asks nothing of us that isn't expected of anyone who works in the fields. He's young, it's true, but you know that Boaz has set him over all the harvesters, and Ethan must render an account for our work. But come, Hummel, we'd best be getting to the field. The others are gathering for a day's work, and we don't want to...
Look, Ethan, there's a comely young woman that I've not seen before. Whose young woman is she?
She's a stranger to me, too.
Perhaps we should go see if we can offer her some assistance.
You speak well, Hummel. She looks lonely. Perhaps we can show her some true hospitality.
We haven't seen you before in the field of Boaz.
Have you come to share in the work of the harvest?
Well,
Don't fear. Ethan and I will look after you. Just follow along close by us, and we'll see that you're well cared for. Will we not, Ethan?
Indeed we will, Hummel. But, what's the name by which you're called?
I'm Ruth the Moabitess,
A Moabite?
daughter-in-law of Naomi, who's just returned from the fields of Moab. It's to glean in the fields that I've come.
We want no Moabites here.
Hummel, if Boaz were to return and find you in idle conversation, do you think it would go well with you? Has he not already extended you a loving kindness in hiring you back again? Come now, on with the work of harvesting. There's much to be done. The sun is well up, and the others are already in the fields.
I'll see the day you're brought down to calamity, Ethan.
Did the young men molest you in any way?
No, my lord. I'm Ruth the Moabitess, daughter-in-law of Naomi, who's just returned from the fields of Moab.
Ruth, I've heard that you've returned with your mother-in-law. Come, Ruth, sit here for a moment.
You are most gracious, my lord.
Now tell me, Ruth, why is it that you've come into the field of Boaz?
It's to glean in the fields that I've come, and by chance, I lighted on this tract of the field. Now, let me glean, please, and I'll certainly gather among the cut-off ears of grain behind the harvesters.
Please do. For doesn't the law of Israel say you must not do completely the edge of your field when you are reaping? In the gleaning of your harvest you must not pick up. You should leave them for the afflicted one and the alien resident. Go and glean, and if anyone molest you, come to me at once.
May Jehovah bless you, my lord.
It's near midday, Ruth. You've been working diligently without stopping since early morning. You must be tired.
It's only that the sun is warm. May I sit here in the shade of the house for a moment before I return to the field?
Please do. No one will disturb you here. I must make another trip into the field to see how the work is progressing. Jehovah be with you, Ethan, my son. Jehovah bless you, my master. And to whom does this young woman belong? The young woman is a Moabitess who returned with Naomi from the fields of Moab. Then the report of Naomi's return is true. Yes, my master. Her name is Ruth. And she said to me, "Let me glean, please, and I shall certainly gather among the cut-off ears of grain behind the harvesters." So she entered, and kept on her feet from that time in the morning until her sitting down just now in the house a little while ago. A stranger in a strange land. It's a difficult thing, Ethan. A very difficult thing. Instruct the young men that I'll not have her molested. Yes, my master. She seems lonely, and she must often have been thirsty while gleaning in the sun. Yet, never did she come to drink of the vessels. I'd speak with her, Ethan. Come, please. Ruth?
Look, here I am.
See the master of the field, Boaz. He would speak with you, Ruth. Do not fear, my daughter. May Jehovah be with you.
And may Jehovah be with you too, my lord.
I would welcome you and urge you not to feel ill at ease. Have you become weary from the gleaning?
Oh, no, my lord. It's unaccustomed work, it's true, but I'm grateful for it. And I thank you and the young man who set over the harvesters for this privilege.
I'd have my fields to be a refuge to you. Do not go away to glean in another field. And you must also not cross over from this place. And in that way, you should keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they will harvest, and you must go with them. Have I not commanded the young men not to touch you?
You're very kind, my lord.
And when you're thirsty, you must also go to the vessels and drink from what the young men will draw.
How is it that I found favor in your eyes, so that I'm taken notice of, when I'm a foreigner?
Here, Ruth, please sit down here. The report was fully made to me of all that you have done to your mother-in-law after the death of your husband, and how you proceeded to leave your father and your mother and the land of your relatives, and to go to a people whom you'd not known formerly. Now may Jehovah reward the way you act, and may there come to be a perfect wage for you from Jehovah, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge.
Let me find favor in your eyes, my lord, because you've comforted me, and because you've spoken reassuringly to your maidservant, although I myself may not happen to be like one of your maidservants.
You've indeed shown yourself to be diligent in keeping on your feet from early morning until now, close to midday.
Jehovah has given me the strength, my lord.
Your faith in the God of She took the two men and kept them out of sight among the stalks of flax laid in rolls for her from the roof. Then she made them swear to her by Jehovah that when the true God would give to his people the land, then they'd preserve alive her and her father's family and deliver their souls from death.
It's even so, Ruth. Then, when the army of Israel marched about the city, and the priests blew on their horns, all the people began to shout a great war cry, and the walls fell down flat. Only Rahab and her father's house were spared alive. Rahab herself told me this story many times when I was just a small boy. She never lost her faith in Jehovah.
Oh, if only I could display a faith like that. How pleased Jehovah must have been with Rahab to spare her alive out of all the city of Jericho. And she was your mother. How you must have loved her because of her faith.
Yes, that is true. Both my mother Rahab and Solomon my father have instilled in me the love of our God. It was not until Joshua and men like my father died that Israel turned away from the true worship. But now Jehovah has again turned his face toward us and supplied us with bread. The fields are full again, and we welcome you to share in Jehovah's loving kindness toward us. But see now, it's meal time. Stay here, please, and you must eat some of the bread and dip your piece in the vinegar. See, here come the harvesters now. Sit here beside them and refresh yourself.
You've truly renewed my spirit, my lord. May Jehovah give you peace, my lord.
And may you too have peace, Ruth.
Girls, it's good to have you join us, Ruth. Did you have success, Ruth? You must have close to half
Ethan!
farming.
And you too, Huddle and Beether. I would lay a charge on you in regard to Ruth. Let her glean also among the cut-off ears of grain, and you must not molest her.
Yes, my master. Yes, my
As
lord.
you say, my lord.
Further, you should also be sure to pull out some from the bundles of ears for her, and you must leave them behind that she may glean them. And you must not rebuke her.
So we understand, my lord.
Shall be done, just as you've said, my lord. And now I go. Come now, Hummel and Beether. We'll eat some bread and roasted grain, and then return to the work of harvesting.
What a blessing for Naomi to have a daughter-in-law as devoted as Ruth. But Naomi is the widow of my father's own brother, and childless even as I am. Could it be providence of Jehovah that's brought her daughter-in-law Ruth the Moabitess into my field? May Jehovah reward her work of love in behalf of Naomi.
Look, Mother, how Jehovah has blessed my work. See? I have almost an ephah finally.
Ruth, my child, the sight of you cheers my heart. Truly, Jehovah's blessing has accompanied you. But tell me, Ruth, how were you received in the field? Did anyone seek to annoy you in any way?
Oh, no, Mother. The workers were most kind to me. At first, some of the young men seemed inclined to be too attentive. But the young man who was set over the harvesters came up and prevented them.
Did they resent a Moabitess coming into the fields of Israel to glean?
One young man spoke quite bitterly. But please don't concern yourself with him, Mother. When he saw his words were regarded as nothing in the ears of the other young men, he kept silent.
It is well, my daughter. But tell me, Ruth, where did you glean today, and where did you work? May the one who took notice of you become blessed.
I'm truly happy, Mother, to tell you the good news. Now you'll have food in plenty. And see, look, I've also brought you roasted grain that was left over after I'd eaten and satisfied myself at the hand of the master of the field.
And who is the man?
The name of the man with whom I work today is Boaz.
Boaz! Blessed be he of Jehovah who has not left his loving kindness toward the living and the dead. The man's related to us. He's one of our repurchasers.
A repurchaser? Oh, Mother, he was most kind to me. He also told me to continue to glean in his fields. He said to me, close by the young people that are mine is where you should keep until they finish the entire harvest I have. And Mother, he called me a true daughter of Israel.
Boaz called you a true daughter of Israel? Surely it's Jehovah that's brought you into the field of Boaz. Now, we must accept the hand of Jehovah in this matter and guide ourselves according to his loving kindness. It's better, my daughter, that you should go out with his young women, that they may not annoy you in another field. You must continue to keep close by the young women in the field of Boaz, and to glean until the harvest of the barley and the harvest of the wheat have come to an end.
As you say, my Mother, I trust in Jehovah and will do according to his wish.
What a blessing it is to see Naomi smile again. Each day that passes, she seems more like the warm and cheerful person she was before she left Bethlehem years ago. True, Bear Cow. Still, as long as I can remember, Naomi cherished the hope that she might share some way in the coming of Shiloh. But look, Maranatha, it's some time now since Ruth returned to Bethlehem with Naomi. It's near the end of the wheat harvest already. Why do you suppose she hasn't found a resting place with a husband yet?
It isn't because she couldn't. I know many of the young men, especially Ace.
What do you know of such things, ma'am? You're just a girl.
And who have more interest in such things?
Not Ruth, it would seem. She's most devoted to Naomi. And all during the barley harvest and until now, near the end of the wheat harvest, she's diligently gleaned in the fields of Boaz, near his young women. And I'm sure that
What can you be sure of about Ruth, except that she's a Moabitess? You know nothing about her life before she married Mahlon. Why, how did you know
Vera, why must you always speak so abusively of Ruth? She's
You
not...
think I'm the only one who wants to keep Israel free?
Israel free? Why, Vera, I know of no one who feels as you do, except perhaps Keenan.
There are many of the young people, too, who've known little except famine
You
and
don't
depression.
Hummel, do you?
Show more respect for your elders, Miriam. Of course I mean Hummel, but there are others.
Please excuse me, Sarah, but Hummel speaks even against Boaz, a man who's hired Hummel to work in his fields when no one else.
Now there's someone else, Sarah. What of Rahab, the mother of Boaz? She was a Canaanite, but surely no one questioned her faith in Jehovah.
How would you know, Barakah? Were you there? I was. And
But surely, Keenan, you're not questioning the faith of Rahab.
Well, there were those who lived at that time who questioned Joshua's judgment in allowing a Canaanite from the cursed city of Jericho to dwell in our midst. And not only Rahab, but her whole family. Of course, no one would openly speak out.
Is that what you're doing now, Keenan?
What do you mean?
Are you questioning the wisdom of Naomi and bringing Ruth back to Bethlehem?
Or the older men of the city and allowing
Tongue of a young child let on the loose can bring its owner to shame.
or the foolishness of the
What do you say?
Nothing, Keenan, nothing. Excuse me, please.
It may not be for Kenaz to be the first to speak out, but someone should go to the...
And why should I not speak out, Sarah? Do you think I'm too old to stand before the older men of the city?
No one in the gate of our people would listen to you, Keenan. Or to you, Sarah. Or to Hummel. For all the older men, well...
Look, there's Azrael, one of the older men, a principal man in the gate. Why not ask him?
Your eagerness may not be altogether a misplaced youthful zeal, Miriam. Perhaps...
I think the slandering tongues of the foolish one should be stopped. Azrael,
Yes, Barakah?
you well know that Naomi has returned from the fields of Moab these many days now, and that she brought with her daughter-in-law, Ruth.
Yes, Barakah, I'm aware of it.
Are you aware also that Ruth is a Moabitess?
Everyone in the city of Bethlehem knows that Mahlon, Naomi's son, married a girl of Moab and that he has left her a widow.
Is there something that you would say about Ruth, Barakah?
No, not I, my lord. But both Kenaz and Zerah have had much to say.
Kenaz and Zerah? But neither of them, to my knowledge, has spoken to any of the older men of the city. Heber, have you heard?
Nothing, Azrael. Nothing.
That's just it, my lord. They speak quietly behind your backs, though neither of them are slow to accuse Ruth and Naomi to their faces.
But what is there to accuse them of? Naomi is a widow who fears the true God, and Ruth has been gleaning diligently in the tract of the field that belongs to Boaz.
Come, see for yourself, please. Come, please, and inquire directly of Kenaz what it is that he's reporting about Ruth the Moabitess.
Very well, Barakah, if it will ease your mind. May you have peace, Kenaz, and all of you.
And maybe
And
you
you,
can use
my
more forever, my lord.
Is there something about Ruth the Moabitess that the older men of the city should know, Kenaz?
Why, no, Azrael. You know that I would be the first one to come to you if I had a serious accusation.
Why is it then that you constantly raise questions as to Ruth's faith in the true God?
And Sarah, too. Didn't both of you just now raise your voices protesting Ruth's presence and...
Well, she is a Moabitess, and who knows what her life was among her own people.
But she left them all behind and has come among a people whom she didn't know formerly.
and has embraced the true worship of Jehovah.
Can a leopard change its spots? Jehovah is a God exacting exclusive devotion.
Do you have knowledge of any acts of false worship on the part of Ruth the Moabitess?
Well,
Or you, Kenaz?
Well, no, my lord, it's only that I...
Yes, Kenaz. Why do you hesitate?
But Ruth is a Moabitess. She's not one of our people. Yet she keeps on dwelling with her mother-in-law and gleans in the fields of Israel.
Come, Kenaz. Sit here for a moment, and you too, Zero. Do any of these things violate the law of Israel, Kenaz? Have you not also read in the law of Moses? And in the case an alien resident resides with you as an alien in your land, you must not mistreat him. Who then is an alien resident except someone who is not one of our people?
Like Ruth, who worships the true God.
Like Ruth. The law says further, the alien resident who resides as an alien with you should become to you like a native of yours, and you must love him as yourself, for you became alien residents in the land of Egypt. No, Kenaz. No one in the gate of our people has found anything of guile or misconduct on the part of Ruth the Moabitess, as long as she has kept dwelling in Bethlehem with her mother-in-law.
But Israel.
But as for you, on your part, Kenaz, and you also, Zero, observe carefully how you speak concerning Ruth. The law says clearly, you must not take up an untrue report, and you must not testify falsely as a witness against your fellow man. For if you do, the course the older men must take is also clearly stated in the law. And the judges must search thoroughly. And if the witness is a false witness and has brought a false charge against his brother, you must also do to him just as he had schemed to do to his brother. And you must clear away what is bad from your midst.
What Azrahel has spoken is good, Kenaz. And you must know that nothing but good has been spoken in the gate concerning Ruth the Moabitess. She is watching diligently over the goings-on of Naomi's household, and the bread of laziness she does not eat. If you are aware of something different concerning Ruth the Moabitess, then speak, Kenaz.
Isn't it rather a blessing to Naomi and to our people, Kenaz, that Ruth has kept on dwelling with her mother-in-law? Go now in peace, and from henceforth, seek only the peace of your brothers.
And may Jehovah grant in some way the secret desire of Naomi's heart.
Mother? The last of the wheat has been harvested. Jehovah has blessed your labor of love, and there has come to be a perfect wage for you from Jehovah, the God of Israel. We have grain in abundance, and we're not lacking in oil. But now, my daughter, ought I not to look for a resting place for you, that it may go well with you? Mother, you've made my life full. Under your roof, I found peace. Together, we've seen many distresses and calamities, but Jehovah has revived us again. In your house, Jehovah has surrounded me, and I'm comforted. I seek no further resting place. Yes, my daughter, but is not the true beauty of womanliness in the footage of her womb? Can I put a child in your arms and nestle its head to your breast? You must be made full and bear seed. It's even so that God has arranged it. I know, Naomi. I'm a woman, and even though I'm a Moabitess, I long to have a son, an Israelite son. But even above all this, my greatest longing is to give you a son. There are many of the young men, both lowly and rich, who've taken notice of your diligence and loyalty, and who highly esteem your devotion to Jehovah, the God of Israel. You're aware, too, that Peloni Almani has certainly not made his foot rare at this house, and each time he's made veiled and guarded offers to buy the tract of field that belonged to Elimelech. Perhaps it would lighten your load of responsibility if I were to Mother, why do you speak of all these things? I have no interest in going after the young fellows, whether lowly or rich. You know what's in my heart, just as I'm well aware of your own longing. So let me be taken, please, by one of our repurchasers. For my child must be your son, in order that the name of Elimelech, your dead husband, may not be cut off from his brothers. Ruth, my daughter, you are better to me than 7 sons, for your love goes beyond even what is normal. And now, is not Boaz, with whose young women you have continued, our kinsman? Yes, we have spoken of it. Tell me what it is I must do, and I'll do according to all your wisdom. This is what you shall do, Ruth. Look, Boaz is winnowing barley at the threshing floor tonight. And you must wash and rub yourself with oil and put your mantles upon you and go down to the threshing floor. Don't make yourself known to the man until he's finished eating and drinking. Yes, Mother, and then? And it should occur that when he lies down, you must also take note of the place where he lies down.
And you must come and uncover him at his feet and lie down. And he, for his part, will tell you what you ought to do.
All that you say to me, I shall do.
And may Jehovah's will be done.
Well spent. We must rest ourselves for the morrow.
We do have a rich harvest, my master. Jehovah's been good to us again this year after the long famine.
Yes, Ethan. Our fields have truly produced a bountiful crop. There'll be a great plenty in Israel. But there's much more that we must do to finish winnowing out the grain. Hamel, Beether, take your rest so that we can be up at dawn to continue our work.
Yes, my master.
Purchaser with the right to redeem.
Blessed may you be of Jehovah, my daughter. You've expressed your loving kindness better in the last instance than in the first instance, in not going after the young fellows, whether lowly or rich. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. All that you say I'll do for you, for everyone in the gate of my people is aware that you are an excellent woman. And now, while it's a fact that I'm a repurchaser, there's also a repurchaser closer related than I am.
There is?
Yes, my child. I am the nephew of Elimelech. He is my father's brother. But there is one who is Elimelech's own brother. He it is whose right comes first. So lodge here tonight, and it must occur in the morning that if he will repurchase you, fine. Let him do the repurchasing. But if he does not take up the light in repurchasing you, I will then repurchase you, I myself, as sure as Jehovah lives.
Oh, my Lord.
Now, my daughter, keep lying down until the morning. Quiet, my daughter. Now, one final word. Don't let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor.
As you say, my Lord.
Now, here, my child. Come over here to the grain heap. Bring the cloak that's on you and hold it open. I would measure out some of the beat-out grain for you. You must not come empty-handed to your mother-in-law. Then go to the house of Naomi and sit still, my daughter, until we know how the matter will turn out. For I will have no rest unless this matter is brought to an end today. sit down here, please.
Peace be with you, Boaz, you mighty man of wealth.
And peace be with you. Do sit down here, please. I have a matter to make known to you. As soon as the company of elders will sit down with us to be witnesses.
As you say, Boaz.
Brothers, you elders of Bethlehem, come here, please. It's Boaz. There's a matter of business for your attention.
Boaz would have words with us.
May Jehovah be with you, brothers.
And until you too be peace.
May you have peace, Boaz. Shalom, Boaz. Shalom Aleichem, Azrael. Sit down here, please, my brothers, and be our witnesses.
As you say, Boaz, state your business.
Let also the people that are in the gate gather themselves, that they too might hear and bear witness.
Now speak on, Boaz.
The tract of the field that belonged to our brother Elimelech, Naomi, who has returned from the field of Moab, must sell.
And how did you come by this information, Boaz?
It was disclosed to me that Naomi seeks a repurchaser.
A repurchaser? Do you then represent Naomi on this matter in coming before the people of the gate?
As you say, Azrael, there is no need for Naomi to approach the older men of my people, for I too am a near kinsman of Naomi. As for me, Pelony, I thought that I should disclose it to you, saying, buy it, in front of the inhabitants and the older men of my people.
Well, the tract has not been sold for some years. It's overgrown and will require much labor at very great cost.
I've been often the wire back.
If you will repurchase it, repurchase it.
Naomi is a dear one, the widow of my beloved dead brother. Oh, I would sacrifice much for my brother's widow. I must, you realize, my dear nephew Boaz, exercise practical wisdom in this matter also. And let's not forget, there's the matter of price.
If you will not repurchase it, do tell me that I may know. For there's no one else but you to do the repurchasing. And I am next to you.
You move quickly, Boaz. You are a man mighty in wealth, though I have the means to repurchase too.
You have indeed, Pelony. What is your word in this?
Well, I shall be the one to repurchase it.
Most generous
Then you'll redeem it?
Yes, I'll redeem it.
There! It's done!
Wait, my brothers. Wait. Remember on the day that you buy the field from Naomi's hand, Pelony, it is also from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead man, that you must buy it.
Why, of course.
So as to cause the name of the dead man to rise upon his inheritance.
Not Ruth. You mean the Moabitess?
Oh, I see. Well, from Naomi, I'll redeem it, but from Ruth...
From Naomi, he'll redeem it. Naomi, who's jewels to
Is it true, Azrael, that on the day that I buy the field from Naomi's hand, it is also from Ruth the Moabitess that I must buy it?
Yes, that's the law in Israel.
Then is it not also true that if Ruth the Moabitess becomes my wife, shall not our firstborn succeed both in the name and in the inheritance of the dead man?
It is so. In order that the name of the dead man might not be cut off from his brothers, your firstborn shall be called Naomi's son.
But you all know I have a wife. I have a family. And remember, I have my own inheritance.
It matters not in Israel, my son. There's all the stronger reason for you to act in behalf of your dead brother.
Well, I am unable to repurchase for myself, or for fear I may ruin my own inheritance.
Not willing to repurchase?
Well then, will you give the right of repurchase to me?
Yes. You repurchase it for yourself with my right of repurchase, because I am not able to do the repurchase.
Brothers, let's have order, please. Confirm this then, Pelony. Pelony, you know the custom in Israel concerning the right of repurchase and concerning the exchange to establish every sort of of thing. Withdraw from your right of kinsmanship, and you must draw off your sandal and give it to your neighbor.
Yes. Take off your sandal, felony.
Buy it for yourself, Boaz. Here is my sandal.
He did. That is the way it should be done to the man who will not build up his brother's household.
And may your name be called in the house of the one who had it.
Brothers! Quiet, my brothers. Let Boaz speak.
Speak, Boaz.
You are my witnesses today that I do buy all that belonged to Elimelech and all that belonged to Kilian and Mahlon from the hand of Naomi. Yes, it is even so, amen. And also Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, I do buy for myself as a wife, to cause the name of the dead man to rise upon his inheritance, and that the name of the dead man may not be cut off from among his brothers and from the gate of his place. You are witnesses today. We are your witnesses, Boaz. We will be your witnesses, Boaz. Time indefinite, the word spoken here will stay. We are witnesses. May Jehovah grant the wife who is coming into your house to be like Rachel and like Leah, both of whom built the house of Israel. And you, prove your worth in Ephrathah and make a notable name in Bethlehem. And may your house become like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, from the offspring that Jehovah will give you out of this young woman. Jehovah's will be done.
Israel must have heard you've given birth to a son.
Your son, my mother.
Naomi! I must welcome them. Oh, Naomi, good neighbor, we've heard the glad news. We've come to rejoice with you.
See the baby. Oh, what a beautiful child.
Surely Jehovah is gracious to you, Naomi, that he's given a son to you.
May you have peace, Ruth.
Blessed are you of Jehovah, Ruth. You are truly a faithful daughter of Israel.
May Jehovah be with all of you. Jehovah has indeed been gracious to me, and that he's granted me conception, and I've borne a son to Naomi.
And a son to Elimelech, my daughter. Praise be to Jehovah that the name of Elimelech will not be lost from among his brothers. I'm no longer mere of the bitter one, my neighbors, for Jehovah has changed my mourning into dancing for me. He has loosened my sackcloth and keeps me girded with rejoicing. Blessed be Jehovah, who has not let a repurchaser fail for you today, Naomi, that his name may be proclaimed in Israel.
And he has become a restorer of your soul, and one to nourish your old age, because your daughter-in-law,
Who is better to you than 7 sons.
who does love you, has given birth to him.
I'll cherish him in my bosom as a gift from Jehovah.
Even as he'll cherish you someday, Naomi.
Let his name be called Obed, for he'll serve you as a son.
Obed, there's no one among Naomi's relatives that is called by this name.
Nevertheless, let his name be called Obed.
Ruth, what do you say, my daughter?
The name pleases me well, Mother, for the child is yours. And Boaz has said, what name you give the child, that is the name by which he'll be called. For the babe is Elimelech's inheritance from Jehovah.
Obed, as a son you shall serve me. I have seen the end of Jehovah's way with me, and look, I have tasted that Jehovah is good, full of pity and of tender loving kindness. And who is there knowing, Obed, but that Jehovah may yet look upon you with favor? The scepter will not turn aside from Judah, neither the commander's staff from between his feet until Shiloh comes. And to him the obedience of the people will belong. Came about in the days when the judges administered justice that a famine arose in the land, and a man proceeded to go from Bethlehem in Judah to reside as an alien in the fields of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the man's name was Elimelech, and his wife's name Naomi. And the names of his 2 sons were... I was reading about Naomi in the book of Ruth.
Wasn't that the most thrilling story? Oh, I felt so sorry for Naomi at first. But what a reward she had for her determination to do God's will.
Yes, I guess she must have felt bad because she didn't have a child. I guess women in those days were kind of serious about that, weren't they?
Oh, yes. In Israel, it was a real reproach to a woman if she didn't have a child, especially a son to carry on the family name. That was just about their whole purpose in life.
But I guess in Naomi it was even more than that, wasn't it?
Yes. She had a consuming desire to share in Jehovah's promise to produce Shiloh, who would bring blessings to all the people.
Wasn't that prophecy about Shiloh referring to Jesus?
Yes, Jesus was Shiloh. And to think that Naomi had the privilege of being one of his ancestors.
Yeah, but she didn't know that.
Well, no, she didn't. But to me, that's what makes it all the more exciting. She realized she might never know she'd actually been used in the line of Shiloh, yet she was willing to devote her whole life to making it possible.
You know, it's funny. I never thought of things like that before.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, here we are, just people. Seems like we don't amount to much ourselves, that what each one of us does himself isn't too important. But I guess to Jehovah, it is, isn't it?
Of course it is. He loves every one of his people, especially if we appreciate our relationship to him. And not only that, he has a place for every one of us in his purpose.
I guess so. I wonder what I could ever do. Certainly nothing like Ruth or Boaz or Naomi.
But don't you see, Dave? That's just it. If we understand what God's purpose is for his people today, we can be just as zealous and devoted as both Naomi and Ruth were.
That's right, David. That's the example the anointed are setting for us today. Yes, but they're the anointed. That's true, and they're going to have a marvelous future. But if they didn't consider their relationship to Jehovah right now and highly value their place in God's purpose in this time of the end, they'd never have that future. Well, didn't both Naomi and Ruth picture those of the anointed? Yes, but beginning in different time periods. Those who were already spirit-begotten sons of Jehovah before he came to the temple for judgment in 1918 were a lot like Naomi. Their one desire was to share in God's purpose and bring forth fruit to the kingdom.
But Naomi's husband Elimelech and her 2 sons died, and Naomi said that Jehovah had dealt bitterly with her. Was this also true of the remnant?
Yes, it was. During the First World War, Jehovah looked with disfavor upon his people on earth for a time. And when he came for judgment, he was displeased. And the Bible tells us that he turned his face away from them. David, you have your Bible there. Would you look up Isaiah 54 and read verses 6 to 8? Sure. Isaiah 54? That's right, verses 6 to 8. Here it is. For Jehovah called you as if you were a wife left entirely and hurt in spirit. Why, that's the way it was with Naomi. Exactly. And that's why she pictures the anointed during this period. Go on, read some more. Okay. And as a wife of the time of youth, who was then rejected, your God has said, for a little moment I left you entirely, but with great mercies I shall collect you together. With a flood of indignation I conceal my face from you for but a moment. But with loving kindness to time indefinite, I will have mercy upon you. Your reproacher, Jehovah has said. Oh, it says that Jehovah reproaches. But who is this wife that he speaks of? Well, she isn't a literal woman. That prophecy refers to God's universal organization.
But I thought you said it was the remnant that he was displeased
Yes,
with.
that's true, but the anointed are a part of God's universal organization, and so what affects them on earth affects the entire organization of God's spiritual sons in heaven.
Then does Elimelech picture Jehovah?
No, Elimelech was the husband of Naomi, and she pictured their remnant.
Oh, then Elimelech would picture Jesus.
That's right.
But Elimelech died. How is that possible? Jesus is immortal.
That's true, yes, but Jesus does everything as his Father does. So if Jehovah turned his face away from his people on earth during the time of the First World War, Jesus would also. So you might say that he died to them during this period of time.
Oh, my. But it does say that Jehovah would repurchase his woman, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's the way that it was with Naomi when she went back home and Ruth with her. Both of them were interested in a son. Now, not just any son, but a son that would carry on the name of Elimelech. Naomi had temporarily lost hope, though her desire was by no means dead, but Ruth kept her hope alive. And then, with grain in the fields again, both became well fed by the work of gleaning that Ruth did. So today, both the Naomi class and those like Ruth became active again after the First World War and began to produce fruits of the kingdom.
Then were others, like Ruth, added to the original remnant, the Naomi class, as spiritual sons of God?
That's right. From 1919 onward, this part of the anointed was pictured by Ruth. And they've been thoroughly devoted to Jehovah's work and producing the fruits of the kingdom all their lives. And they've worked very closely with the older ones of the anointed who were in the truth before them. And together, just like Ruth and Naomi, they've produced much fruit.
But what about Peloni, Mother? I can't find his name in the Bible. In the New World Translation, he's called so-and-so.
That's right. Peloni Almani is the Hebrew, meaning a certain one or so-and-so.
Oh, I see. But what about Boaz and the repurchasing? I don't understand.
Yes, Mother. Explain that about the repurchasing. Why would Boaz be willing and Peloni not?
Well, Peloni was willing to get Naomi's inheritance. That would be fine. But he didn't appreciate Jehovah's purpose, and he didn't want the responsibility of raising a family in his dead brother's name.
You mean if we don't appreciate Jehovah's purpose and don't take on responsibility, we'd be like Peloni?
That's right. Peloni could have argued he was fulfilling God's purpose in Israel just by raising his own family and caring for his own inheritance. Maybe he kept the law in every other respect, but in this matter, where it would cost him some personal inconvenience or interfere with his own way of life or his individual interests, well, then he wasn't willing to exert himself.
What about Boaz? He was an old man. Why would he?
Well, because he was willing, even in his old age, to take on this responsibility to see Jehovah's law involving brother-in-law marriage fulfilled. He had a respect for Jehovah's purpose and wanted to share in it, even though it might add greatly to his responsibility.
So Peloni's real attitude showed up when he was put to the test.
Exactly. He could have taken the place of Elimelech, and he could have raised up a seed, so he failed in his duty. He could have married Ruth, couldn't he? Which means that he stood in the way of Boaz for a while, who did finally marry Ruth.
So Boaz pictures Jesus.
That's right. And it was just the same as it is today. There are some who are mere pretender Christ, who have the name only, just as Jesus warned his followers when he said that false Christs and false prophets would arise and even give great signs and wonders so as to mislead even the chosen ones.
The Naomi and the Ruth class.
Yes. So there are those today that want to capture the congregation, the remnant that is espoused to Jesus. And they want the patronage of these and support of these, but they don't want the responsibility of making the Naomi class and Ruth class fruitful with kingdom interests. That would be too much work. It detracts too much from their own selfish interests.
My, there sure is a lot more to these dramas than you'd think, just reading the account.
Yes, and that's what strengthens our faith, though, when we see all these things being fulfilled way down
this
here.
sure is a
John, it's so good to have you home again. We've certainly missed you.
Did you get along all right while I was away?
Nothing's changed since your telephone just last night.
Did you have a good time, Dad?
The best. I never
Oh,
realized.
Daddy, we just
Of
can't
course,
wait
I'd
to
heard.
hear all about the school. Did you learn a lot?
Did you have to give any talks?
Were you in many of the demonstrations? What were the subjects you studied?
What kind of work did you have to do outside
Did you
school
get
hours?
Sleep, you look a little tired, John.
How was the trip home, Dad? Did you
Was
have to
there
drive
anyone else
much
in
of the
your
way?
class that we know?
Whoa, wait a minute. If you'll all take a breath, maybe I can say
we're
something.
sorry, Daddy.
Oh, sure, Dad. We
It's
didn't
only
think-
that we were so glad to see you and anxious to hear all about it.
Well, I feel a little like the Queen of Sheba. Only the half has been told. I knew I'd enjoy the 2 weeks at the Kingdom Ministry School, but I had no idea. Well, it'll take months to unload it all. I feel full up to here, but let's not stand here. Sit down.
I'll
sit
bet
down.
you're tired, John, but we'll have something to eat in just a minute. Dinner's almost ready.
Something smells good, all right. But tell me, you were all talking so seriously when I walked in, I almost hated to interrupt it. What was the discussion all about?
Oh, Daddy, Mom told us about Ruth and Naomi. How Naomi lost her husband and sons and was too old to have another son. But Ruth loved her so much she was willing to be repurchased along with Naomi. And how all this pictures the older ones of the remnant who are joined by those who were spirit begotten after the temple judgment and have such intense love for each other that nothing except death itself could make a separation between the two. And they're working together in the interests of God's kingdom, protecting one another against false Christs, who are pictured by Pelony Almany, the so-and-so, and are bringing about a great ingathering. And
Well, that sounds like you've had quite a lesson yourself. Your mother must have given you a lot to think about. What about you, David? What did you think of the story?
Well, Dad, I was just thinking, could I be baptized at the Circuit Assembly next month?
Baptized? Isn't this a rather sudden decision, David? You never spoke about it before.
I know, Dad, but I've got to do something pretty soon. There isn't much time
what
left.
about
and-
the 80 questions in the last book?
Oh, I can study hard on those. That'll help me.
But you know, David, baptism must be preceded by dedication.
I know that, Dad. I did sort of make a dedication after the public meeting today.
Oh,
And,
David.
of course, I'm going to make it more official later, but
Well, I'm glad to hear that, son. You can't know how glad. But what made you decide what you said after the public meeting?
well, it wasn't just that. But, well, you see, I wasn't going to take my Bible to the meeting today. I know you've asked me to do it, Dad, and I'm sorry. But anyway, Kitty got after me about it, and David, well, I took it because she reminded me of what you said. And during the talk, Brother Wise read 1 Corinthians 7:31. So I looked it up along with everybody else.
What does it say, David?
Why, Kitty, you were there.
I know, Daddy, and I read it too, but I forget.
It really begins in verse 29. He read it like this. Moreover, this I say, brothers, the time left is reduced. Henceforth let those making use of the world be as those not using it to the full. For the scene of this world is changing.
I remember now.
Brother Wise warned us. If we think we can live like the people of this system do, occupying our time with the pursuits of just living, then we're going to have a rude awakening. Because as Paul is inferring, this world is rapidly disappearing and soon there'll be no living in it at all.
Yes, that's it. I think reading it myself made more of an impression on me. Then I got to thinking. You know, what you've been telling me about spirituality and how I'm always interested in things that are really part of this world and not related to the truth. Really making use of those things to the full, not like Paul said. And how Naomi never stopped thinking about Shiloh, even when she saw no hope of ever having another son. And do you see what I mean, Dad?
I think I do, son. Go on.
Well, Naomi and Ruth weren't even facing the end of this system like we are. But they still used their whole life in God's service. Did you know, Dad, that Boaz was an old man?
Yes, I knew that.
And Ruth was just a young woman. Why, she could have married any kind of young man. A rich one if she wanted to, or a poor one if she loved him. But she didn't think about anything like that. She was willing to marry an old man just so she could give Naomi a son. And it wasn't even going to be her own son. It was for Naomi.
Yes, and she had a reason for it, didn't she?
Yes. And that's what started me thinking. She did it because she really loved Jehovah and Naomi and wanted to have a part in fulfilling Jehovah's purpose.
That's really unselfish love, isn't it?
So I thought, here we are, with so much to live for and so little time left in this system to live, even if I gave up everything this system has for me, making use of this world, as Paul said, as those not using it to the full, how would that be such a big thing compared to Ruth and to the Ruth class, who've already spent years fulfilling Jehovah's purpose? I guess that's because they're spiritually minded. Huh, Dad?
That's right, David. And I think, in view of what you've just told me, I'll be glad to start studying those 80 questions in the lamp book with you. But tell me, David, why do you want to be baptized so soon? The circuit assembly's only 3 weeks away.
I know, Dad. But if I don't do it then, school vacation will be here and almost gone before another assembly. So, if I get baptized right away, I can vacation pioneer this summer.
Oh, David, that's wonderful. Then Mother and you and I can all vacation pioneer together.
Well, that will make your mother and me both very happy, son.
And I'm sure it will please your heavenly Father, too, David.
I'm very sure that each one of us, by your applause, appreciated the drama, all the diligent preparation that was put into it by those that were acting out on the stage before us here. Perhaps you'd like to meet the circuit servant that worked along with this large cast. So, Brother Blaylock, would you like to come up and say a word in behalf of the cast, please?
Well, our brothers and sisters certainly worked very hard on preparing this drama. It began about 6 weeks ago, and they've worked very diligently. They've rehearsed, maybe 2 or 3 dozen times in the course of this 6 weeks. So we certainly appreciated the fine effort, and we trust that you brothers and sisters have been encouraged and upbuilt by this information. And we were very happy to learn, too, that Brother Franz came over this evening to see a part of this drama. So we express our appreciation to our brothers and sisters.